In the last episode, we talked about how, like a desperate CEO, you should have challenged search order. In this episode, we will see how the Chief Operating Officer Shang Yang installed. What kind of operating system he installed? This system has only one core goal. For this goal, Shang Yang transformed Qin into a precise, a cold and tireless war machine. There is no war moral preaching here, only cold KPs and harsh codes. The first thing Shang Yang did was to break the junction system. In the past, the land belonged to the state, and everyone farmed together. Everyone worked the same amount. It was a typical big pot race. Shang Yang said no, which was too inefficient. He gave the order, abandon the junction system. This sentence translated into modern, in management language, it means breaking the potluck, and implemented privatized contracting. He recognized private land ownership and allowed buying and selling. Farmers were crazy about it. They used to work for the nobles, but now they work for themselves. To increase their grain harvest, they went to the fields before dawn and didn't go home until dark. Qin State instantly became a huge farm. The grain reserves were so much that warehouses couldn't hold them. This is agriculture, to strengthen the country's economic foundation. If abolishing the junction system made Qin rich, the military merit system made Qin stronger. So strong that it's abnormal. Shang Yang designed a system, the hardest KPI assessment system in human history, the 20-rank system. In this system, your social status, mansion, fields, and even the number of wives, not your birth or your parents, but only one thing, the enemy's head. If you cut off the head of an enemy's armored soldier, congratulations, you've been promoted. You'll get 100 mil of land and 9 mil of houses. This is directly equating killing enemies with getting rich. Even if you are a royal relative, without achievements, you have to go back to the field to dig shit. It's like a company announcing that, whether you are a rich second generation or an official, to get a promotion and raise, go to the front line to kill enemies, and bring me the head. This incentive mechanism turned the Qin army into a tiger and wolf army. Everyone was eager to fight like they were seeing money. Incentives must be accompanied by constraints. In order to prevent internal chaos, he invented the joint liability system. He grouped 5 households into a wu, and 10 families as a shen. If one family breaks the law, and if the others don't report, they will be punished. It's like locking you and your neighbor in the same boat. If one person damages the ship, everyone on the ship will drown. Your neighbor is the surveillance camera above your head. If you complain about the heavy taxes, be careful that your neighbor Wong will report you for a bonus. This system is extremely cruel, but it is extremely effective. What is the level of social security in Qin? Losing nothing on the road, or close the doors at night. It's not because the people of Qin are morally noble, but because the punishment was too severe, and strict mutual supervision. Shang Yang used this method of iron chains connecting boats to lock the entire country firmly. No one could fall behind, and no one dared to rebel. This machine was running at full speed. Qin became a terrifying country. People were brave in war, and afraid of private fights. People were brave on the battlefield, but they didn't dare to fight privately, because private fighting would be severely punished. This machine is highly efficient, but the price was high. It compressed human value to farming and fighting, turning society into a pressure cooker. Shang Yang designed all of this, and he also became the first victim of the machine, because he forgot to install a safety valve for the machine. Qin Zhaogang gave him great honor, and named him Shan Zhen, and styled himself Shang Zhen. But at the peak of his life, crisis also quietly approached, because he made a mistake. That mistake that all genius designers make. He forgot to leave a way out for himself. When the machine he built no longer needed him, he would find himself becoming a replaceable part at any time. Shang Yang's laws were cruel and efficient, but it has a huge loophole. But he had no safety law. In the early stage of revolt, the prince broke the law. In order to maintain the absolute authority of the law, he punished the prince's two teachers without hesitation. Gong Xichen had his nose cut off, and was tattooed. Gong Senjia was tattooed on his face, which seemed to be the law, equality before the law. But from the perspective of political survival, it was a disaster. Who is Gong Xichen? He was a noble of Qin State, and the teacher of the new monarch King Huan of Qin. Shang Yang offended the future king, and the powerful officials of the dynasty. It's like a programmer wrote a perfect antivirus software, but the first thing he did was formatting the boss's computer. Although the program logic is correct, but the programmer's his career is probably over. In 338 BC, Qin Yang died, and the prince succeeded him, known as King Huan of Qin. The moment of revenge has come. Gongzi Qin and others immediately accused Shang Yang of rebellion. Shang Yang fled in a hurry. Then a dramatic scene occurred. He fled to the border checkpoint and wanted to stay in an inn, but the innkeeper shone a lantern on him. I'm sorry, sir. According to the law of Shang Yang, I would be punished for harboring unlicensed guests. I will be punished by joint liability. After hearing this, stood in the snow and was stunned. This is the famous self-inflicted punishment in history. The law he formulated was too perfect that even he couldn't find a loophole. He wanted to escape away because he had offended Wei in the past, but they refused to let him in. At that moment, the reformer who had once pointed out the country realized what it means to call for help in vain, and no response. He used all his escape routes. He blocked them one by one in the form of laws. The cornered Shang Yang was eventually defeated and killed, and was torn apart by 5 horses. King Huan of Qin killed him and destroyed his family. It sounds cruel, but it just reflected the terrifying rationality of Qin's politics. Qin Huan King hated Shang Yang as a person, but he loved Shang Yang's law. Killing Shang Yang was to quell the anger of the nobles and consolidate his kingship, but keeping the new law was to keep Qin strong. This war machine has no longer needed Shang Yang as an operator, because the machine itself can operate automatically. Shang Yang used his death, offered the last sacrifice. His tragedy is that he overestimated himself, thinking that he was the master of the machine. But he forgot that, in the face of absolute power, he was always just the one who could, a tool that can be discarded at any time. Shang Yang died, but his legacy survived, and it became stronger and stronger. The war machine that he infused with his soul continues to rumble forward. After several generations of kings like King Huan, King Zhaxiang, this machine finally accumulated enough power to annex the world. Shang Yang's reform created a perfect skeleton for Qin. And then, this machine needs a final driver, a conqueror who can step on the accelerator, and conqueror who can push this power to the extreme. Next time, we will witness the end of history. King Yang of Qin, the emperor of all ages, will drive this, the war machine that has been ruling for 100 years, and complete the unprecedented unification.